Good evening. Welcome to our first in a series of special 50th Independence conversations. My name is Dr. Kendal Major, and I have the distinct pleasure to interview Sir Arthur Foulkes. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe our conversation will serve as a masterclass in Bahamian history and Bahamian exceptionalism. Sir Arthur is certainly an historical treasure. Now, to give you some context, on July 16, 2023, as a part of the 50th anniversary of independence, Bahamas Faith Ministries hosted a special Jubilee worship service where we honored the 15 signatories of the 1973 Constitution. Sir Arthur was one of 4 surviving founding fathers. In preparation for this special service, we interviewed Sir Arthur at his home. He is the 8th Bahamian Governor General, first elected to Parliament in 1967 and a member of the first cabinet under majority rule and our first independence. He was instrumental in crafting the words of our preamble of the Constitution that is now 50 years old. He was a former senator and high commissioner to the United Kingdom and ambassador to France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, and the European Union. Sir Arthur was born in Matthewtown, Inagua. His wife, Joan Lady Foulkes, is the former Joan Eleanor Ballard. I trust you would find our conversation as informative and as interesting as I did. Now to the interview. Well, good afternoon, Sir Arthur. Certainly it's wonderful to meet with you, and thank you for agreeing to meet with us and on this wonderful occasion as we approach the 50th independence. How do you feel today?
I feel good, Dr. Major, and welcome to you.
Thank you.
I'm glad we're having this chat.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. I want to begin with this. You are one of the signatories, and in a conversation we had recently, there were 5 surviving signatories. And as we plan and get ready for the independence, 50th independence, and we have a number of activities planned, as you could see, going on throughout the nation. And one of the things that we wanted to do, as you know, is to honor 5 surviving signatories. You had indicated even then that, you know, things are happening so fast, and we are up in age, and we must make hay while the sun shines. Well, unfortunately, it turned out to be prophetic, because we've lost one of the distinguished signatories in the late Honorable George Smith. He was a good friend of yours.
He was a dear friend of
mine.
He
was a dear friend. Could we use this first moment to pay tribute to him and his demise?
I'd very happily do that. George is one of the most extraordinary people I've known. As a young man, and back in 1963, that's when I met him. He came into the office of Bahamian Times on Wolf Road. And Bahamian Times, the office was more than a newspaper office. That was a gathering place for this, for the movement, really. And this young man came in and offered to help. He could have found a lot of other things to do, as young men did, but he came in and he stayed and he became a part of the movement.
That's what.
From then, up until the time he died, George was committed to the progress of the Bahamian people. He was interesting. He had an extraordinary aptitude for politics, which you don't see very often. He understood politics, but he was motivated by a strong love for his country and his people, especially his people in Exuma.
Yes, he did.
And he was progressive, I think. And those ideals stayed with him throughout his life. And as you know, George and I, later on, we found ourselves on different sides of the political fence.
Yes, you did.
But the strange thing is, the friendship was strained from time to time, but it held. And George and I remained good friends
over the years.
All those years. Wow. Just I had a birthday recently, and it was either just before my birthday, just after. He dropped in and we had supper together, just be him and wife. that was how close we were.
It's wonderful.
We were like brothers.
Yes.
And I am happy to have known him. He was a great Bahamian, a real patriot.
Excellent. He was. And what is interesting about your relationship is he died at about 82 or 83, 82 years old. And that makes him about 12, 13 years younger than you were.
Me,
So
yeah.
even then, you still found common ground.
Absolutely.
And he wanted to be with the older fellas back then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was his interest.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was keenly interested in the progress of the country and the people. And he also had this belief, which we shared, that the Bahamians could do almost anything they put their minds
Absolutely.
to. And he believed that, as I do,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
So we were soul brothers.
He always thought about through certainly one of his loves was local government, and he penned and authored some thoughts on what local
Yes.
government would look like.
Yes, yes.
And of course, from his beloved Exuma, that was the shining star in his life,
yeah.
and he dedicated most of his life to the
Yes.
Exumans.
I had to admit to him on occasion as an inaugural man that one of my favorite spots in the farm was in Exuma Keys, which is so beautiful, you know. But yes, George just left.
He just left, didn't he?
Suddenly like that. But we have to carry on.
We must carry on, and now there are 4 surviving, and we are now at this point in our history. If you could for a moment reflect on 1973, 15 of our founding fathers met in London, Marlborough House in London, on a wintry December to debate, craft, organize, discuss this experiment called the Constitution of 1973 that will usher us into independence.
Yeah.
What was the atmosphere like?
Exciting. There was an atmosphere of excitement, and we knew that we were making history. Some of us, nearly all of those here, were involved in the progressive movement, and we had achieved majority rule, which I think was perhaps the greatest event in our history since emancipation. So we were in charge of our affairs, but we were still a colony. And it was that last step that we had to take to get rid of that and to become able to speak for ourselves in the councils of the world as an independent state. Now, sometimes people get mixed up and say we became a nation. No. We were a nation long before that.
Absolutely.
But we became an independent state. And the whole idea of that conference was to entrench the principles by which we would be governed, by which we would govern ourselves as an independent people.
Yes.
And that is the what we did.
And the atmosphere, was it collegial?
Oh,
Was
yes,
it-
the
was
atmosphere
it
was
hot?
collegial.
Was it a bit-
No, we had debates, of course. We didn't agree, and that was the whole idea. But it was friendly. Some of the debates were heated, naturally, but on the whole, it was friendly. And we realized that we were all Bahamians.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes we forget this in the political division. Or sometimes we have to remind ourselves that your brother may disagree with you on the direction do you think the country should go. But remember that he loves the country just as much as you. So we realized that we all love this country.
Yeah, so that was a collegial environment.
Collegial.
It was hard at times. What was the atmosphere like, or the posture of the British at the time? Were they helpful? And
Yes, the British were very helpful. For instance, the opposition, the 4 of us in the opposition at the time, and they provided us with a legal advisor, constitutional expert, sat in a room with us. But
from Britain or
from Britain. And
wasn't Eugene the Couch?
I was coming to that.
That's why.
Yeah. Eugene Depute with our own constitution.
Absolutely.
And he sat in the room with us as well.
Yeah.
But it was a good gesture that they offered that.
They
that
did.
help.
They did.
They tried to be helpful, and I think they realized too that it would be in their best interest and their reputation if this colony were to get a good launching and everything would go in order. And so they participated in the debate. Sometimes they agreed with one side and not the other, and that's how we did it. The main thing is that we entrenched in our constitution two things mainly. One, how we would be governed, the actual institutions of the government were entrenched in the constitution. And the other thing is, and Jean made a point of this, our rights were entrenched in the Constitution. Our right to freedom of association, all those freedoms.
Yes.
In fact, Eugene, Mr. Depute said at one time, by comparison with the American Constitution, so far as our civil rights are concerned, the Bahamian Constitution is far superior.
That's
And I'm proud of that. We
wonderful.
have a good constitution in that regard.
And it has stood the test of time,
It's stood
50
the test
years
of
later.
time, yeah. There's some things that need to be changed,
Sure.
obviously,
Of course.
and I hope we'll get around to doing that. But on the whole, our institutions have held. We have had elections after elections. People say, well, again, that's no big thing. It is a big thing.
It is.
Because you see what happened in some other countries.
Absolutely.
So the institutions held, and by way of advice, I should like to say that it is so important for this generation to appreciate that. Those institutions are what give us our stability.
Yes.
The House of Assembly, Parliament.
We could count on them.
But you have to take care of them.
Absolutely.
Because if you misuse them, and all the other institutions of the state, all the other offices of the state, you have to respect them, take care of them, because they will last you a lifetimes, if you take care of them.
Yes.
But if you don't take care of them, the times will come when under stress, they will give way.
They will give way.
And we see that
Yes.
happening. Eh?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You abuse them, but we've been very fortunate. I always tell young people, the House of Assembly was established in 1729. It wasn't established for black people. It was established for the settlers. But we Bahamians, we saw the sense in that. We assimilated the institution of Parliament. And that has been the main reason why we have been stable throughout all of that. All of the difficulties we've been through, the struggle for majority rule, we didn't have to resort to violence and revolution. It was always, it's up there, in that place.
It's up that place. They can do it. Hence the term, the quiet revolution.
Quiet revolution.
And that's something that we have come to honor as a
Exactly.
part of our
And
historical.
thank God for.
Absolutely.
Thank God.
Absolutely.
And our rights are enshrined. I hope that after this celebration, that we would take a little more time in explaining our Constitution to the new generation so that they will understand and appreciate. And I say that for this reason. We live near to this huge cultural power. And it is almost impossible not to be influenced.
Yes.
But we got to be careful that what we have, that we protect.
Remains.
And don't,
Bahamian.
like the dog in the manger, look over there and see something which is not as good as what we have.
Absolutely.
We have a waking parliamentary democracy. And the essence of that, of the parliamentary democracy is very simple, that the people want to be governed by their own elected representatives.
Yes.
That is it.
Yes.
And so the institutions that allow us to do this, were the institutions that we got entrenched in that December in London all those years ago. and it's now ours, but we have to take care of it.
Absolutely. Wonderful. During the debate, I'm sure there was some papers that, in preparation for the debate, a promise to the people as to what this could look like, a green paper and eventually a white paper. Was there a precedent from other constitutions that served as a guide, or did this come organically from the debate and the discussions of the 15 members and the representatives?
There were the influences from all over.
All over, yeah.
Because, as I said, there were some colonies that got independence before us,
Right.
and some of those principles were there. Our Constitution is a little different in some ways. We will come to the issue at some point of head of state. There's a difference in, say, in Dominica.
Dominica, yes.
They have the same parliamentary system, same parliamentary democracy, similar constitution, but they have a
They
president.
have a president, yes.
And we've drawn from the experience of the world.
One of the things that really is striking in our Constitution that many Bahamians hold very dearly is the 161-word introduction of the Constitution called the preamble. Particularly in when I read the preamble, when we read it in many respects, we see it as a vision statement for what guides us, what is our intention, and what is our purpose. Many Bahamians are not aware who, what, where that preamble came from. Share a little bit about that.
I will tell you. Sir Lyndon always gave me credit for writing the preamble. And I'll tell you why. In 1969, we were preparing for another conference in London. We've had 3 constitutions, 60, 64,
Right.
69. And in preparation for the 69 conference, I wrote a preamble. I was in cabinet at the time. And that preamble went to London. I didn't go. I was not a part of the delegation. But the British told us at the time that no, you cannot have a preamble now. You can have a preamble when you become independent. So that is why that preamble was not included
In the first
69
69.
Constitution. So
That was in abeyance,
Yes.
waiting its time.
So the years come on. 72 is here, and we're now preparing for the independence constitution. And I'm no longer part of that government. So what happened was that they took what I wrote and they made some changes. And there was one particular change in it. And that was some religious leaders wanted to say that the Bahamas is a Christian country. And Sir Lyndon very wisely resisted that because we were writing a constitution for a plural society.
For plural,
everybody.
yeah, understood.
And the compromise was respect for Christian princes. So that was added,
right.
and some changes. But fundamentally, most of those words are mine.
Powerful. Many Bahamians don't know that, and Bahamians should know that. And in some private conversations, it was said that you were, but I think
You
enough
don't know
is
the
not
background.
said. Yeah, no background. So that's quite fascinating.
That's how it happened. Yeah.
So that, what was the inspiration behind the original writings of the preamble?
Just love of country. You know, I keep telling you, we have such a wonderful country. It's easy to become poetic when you think about it.
Quite poetic. 161
Yeah.
words.
And I was lucky, Dr. Major. I was involved in my first profession in journalism,
Yes.
which took me all over the Bahamas.
Yes.
And then I got into politics,
Yes.
which took me all over
All
the
over the
Bahamas.
Bahamas, yeah.
So I know this country,
Oh, wow.
and I know what a beautiful country. That's like my friend George said. We know what a wonderful, beautiful country we have. And we're blessed with that. So it's easy. I used to tell, when I used to visit as Governor General, in every settlement I went to, I told the children, wherever you go in the Bahamas, you live in Abaco. Wherever you go in the Bahamas, you are home.
Yes.
You live in Manawa Bay, Manawaki, wherever, or Cherokee, wherever. If you go to Crooked Island, you're home.
You're home.
And that's how I feel about this country. I was born in Anagua, but I know that wherever I go in this country, I am home. And God gave us this, what I regard as one of the most beautiful spots on the planet. So it's not difficult to become inspired.
Inspired, huh? Yeah. No, that's we hold that very dearly, particularly in our ministry. The essence of the Constitution is the outlook, and that outlook is the preamble, and it speaks very strongly.
And
we know legally. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, the Bahamas has respect for Christianity, for all religions, and most of our people are Christians, but we do not have a state church.
We don't, that's right. There's a church that we call the state church, but we don't in fact have one.
We don't have a state
That's
church.
correct,
There's no state church in our Constitution.
Yeah,
So state events can be held in any denomination.
that's amazing. That's
Late founding Prime Minister Sir Lyndon, his funeral was
at the Church of God of Prophecy
on East Street.
on East Street. That's right. That's right.
So, but let me repeat, our people, I want our young people to know more.
Yes.
And to let the Constitution become a part of them, because it's beautiful what we have.
It is. It is.
Beautiful. Like I say, there's some things that need to be changed, and I hope those will be done sooner rather than later. But we have a lot to be proud of, and if we protect what we have, I'm sure God will bless us with many more years of peace and tranquility and progress.
Absolutely, no question about it. I think somehow we need to institutionalize this Constitution and how it's fed through our students.
Yes.
Sometimes it has a lot of legal terminology. They call it legalese. That's a little bit difficult for persons to comprehend.
Exactly.
But at its very essence, it's a wonderful document.
Yes, and the principles are not difficult to understand.
Not difficult to understand.
Once they're explained.
Yes,
You know?
yeah.
The principles of parliamentary democracy.
Yes.
That's, which most democratic countries in the world have chosen as their form of government.
Still standing strong throughout the years.
I always tell young people, I remember I was being interviewed and I was asked whether we could borrow some things from our American friends, and I didn't see much in that idea. And I made the point that after World War II, the Americans didn't try to impose that type of constitution on anybody, because that was written in specific circumstances, for their circumstances. It's an 18th century constitution. And you know the problems they had in keeping the states together. Those problems are still with them today.
We were talking about. Yeah.
So after World War II, Japan, for instance, they gave Japan a parliamentary democracy with a monarchy.
With a monarchy. Yeah.
So, and I think most of the countries in the world value that parliamentary, and we had it. We had the seeds of it a long time ago, and we built on it. And that is what is so wonderful.
Yes, yes. What a country. We are really excited about this country, and within the next few months, as you reflect now on 50 years ago, and now we're here, and I'm not sure if you thought you would be here 50 years from 1973, but here we are. What do you see for our country, and what does national independence mean to you?
It means, just as I said just now, it means that we are responsible for for our own affairs, and we speak for ourselves in the councils of the world. We are an independent state amongst the other independent states in the world. And I hope that things will get better. We have challenges. These challenges aren't related necessarily to independence, but we've had challenges going way back, as you know.
Yeah.
We've had the struggle for majority rule. We
Dealt
did
with that, yes.
Yeah. We've been doing okay, I think, with our Constitution and as I said just now, preserving our institutions. We've had a number of elections, no problem. There was only one controversial election that we had once, and that was ended in some problem. There are a lot of countries that can't boast that. And I always say this, like my friend George, we share the belief in the talent of the Bahamian people. We are naturally talented people.
Aren't we?
We are talented beyond our small number. And we have an atmosphere, we have the framework now within which that talent can bloom.
Can be blossomed, yes, to another.
Artistic talent, sports. I mean,
Yes.
for a small country,
Absolutely.
sometimes you don't reflect. For a small country, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
And we go way back. Before Sidney Poitier lit up the screen, we had a gentleman called Bert Williams, who was a leading comedian in America, a vaudevillian singer. He was Bahamian.
Yes. It's always someone.
Always. And again, back then our population was even smaller. So we've always had this talent. The one thing that, and our artistic talent is just flourishing now. We've produced world-class artists.
Yes.
The one thing that worries me, Dr. Major, is we have to pay more attention to our social culture. We haven't done as well as we might have in our social culture. We're having some problems there. And again, sometimes it's all about going back to first principles. Like reminding our young people, don't mind what you see on TV. Say yes, sir.
Say yes, sir.
No, ma'am.
Good manners will take you around the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as you know, one thing leads to another. And the problems we're facing now with some of our young men in particular, that's a problem. And it is something that we, all of us together, have to do something about.
Yes.
The police alone can't do it.
Can't do it, yeah.
Even the government alone can't do it. We as a people have to recognize that as a problem and determine again to restore our social culture. Because I don't know if you remember, Dr. Major, I remember back in the day when I was Minister of Tourism, and I still did it after that. People would say, we came to the Bahamas because of the beautiful beaches and sunshine and all that. But we keep coming back because we love the Bahamian people. We all are so different.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, no, we stand out. No question about that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we must be careful not to lose that. That ordinary human respect for one
special
another.
it factor.
That's
That,
special.
yeah.
I tell the story of when we were campaigning one time years ago on one of the family islands. I can't remember which one it is. And a group of us went to the island and did a settlement. And the chief lady in the settlement came out in her Sunday go to meeting clothes. So I had to explain what Sunday go to meeting meant. And pleased to meet you. Hope we be no more stranger. Not the best grammar, but what an elegant greeting. What an elegant greeting. And we stayed in our house.
And you felt that. Absolutely. Yeah.
She was poor. She didn't have the opportunity for education, high education, but she had class. That's what class is about.
Absolutely.
It's not how much money you have.
That's right.
It is
Or
what you
education.
have. It's
in the
what you
heart.
have in you.
Yeah.
It's that fundamental civility,
civility,
that
yes.
Bahamians always have.
Yeah.
And that is what I would like to see us flourish again. So we don't have to imitate the boundaries in society. I don't need to tell you know this. The boundaries between child and parent.
Yes, they are. No question about it.
You know, would we'd be told if a child back in the day would even dream about calling their parent by the first
By
name?
the first day, yeah. Can happen.
But that is where the breakdown begins if you let it go there. So I'm hoping that we pay more attention to our social culture and to have just as we have what I regard as a renaissance in art, to have a renaissance in our social culture, a restoration of Bahamian culture, social culture.
Sounds like you're reflecting on the preamble again, because it speaks to guarantee. The first of the guarantees is self-discipline, and then it goes on to how our freedom can only be preserved by self-discipline, unity, industry, and an abiding respect. So those fundamental core values need to be harnessed again and further developed. And I think
Because without them,
yes,
all the other things that are entrenched will go to pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful experience for me personally.
My pleasure.
To meet with you, and particularly on this very auspicious occasion. And again, for you are quite. Your memory is sharp, is attacked, and you are still going strong. And so we appreciate this opportunity to meet with you.
Thank God.
It's wonderful. God has been good to you, and our prayers that God continues to bless you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Major.
You are certainly a wonderful, wonderful treasure that the Bahamas has, and we salute you in your work.
And it's very kind.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, very much. We enjoyed it very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi once again. We are grateful for the opportunity granted to us by Sir Arthur and Lady Foulkes. It is our hope that you, our audience, benefited from our discussions. Thank you for being a part of our special 50th Independence Conversations. Good evening.